Good afternoon and welcome to an episode of Stand Up for Jehovah. Well, hasn't it been a long time since I last did a video? My hair's grown so long I can put it in bunches now. I've got a really interesting story to tell you today. Last weekend, the Jehovah's Witnesses knocked at my door. This has happened to me approximately 3 times in the last 15 years since I left. And the last 2 times I ran away screaming, "I can't talk to them, they're mad!" But this time, now that I'm a big badass apostate, now that I've done loads of things and learned loads of things and I consider myself to be an activist, I thought, no, be brave, answer the door. So first of all, I ran upstairs saying to myself, I can't answer the door, they're mental. And then I cowered in the bathroom and they were still at the door, they hadn't gone away, and so I kind of tiptoed back downstairs and I looked through the frosted glass and I saw that it was like a man and a little girl, and I thought, you know what, go on, practice, have a practice of all this stuff that you've been talking about, all this knowledge that you've gleaned, you know, have a go on these guys and see where you go. So I opened the door and it was a young man from my old congregation who actually knew me because he was just coming in as I was going out. And he had a little girl with him about 2, and I didn't want to deceive these people. So the first thing I said was, he started with his spiel and I said, look, I'm going to stop you there. I'm an apostate. Cracking opening line. And then I looked at the little girl and I felt really sorry for her and I said, would your little girl like some Smarties? And I think the mixed messages of, I'm an apostate, would your little girl like some Smarties, kind of threw him off balance, and he kind of went, no, we're just going for a coffee actually. So I went, oh, okay. And then I kind of wished I'd pushed the Smarties thing, because I remember being a little girl stood on the door and nobody ever gave me anything, and I think that would have been quite sweet. Anyway, she was only about 2, so she was stood there. So then I said, you know, okay, you don't have to speak to me if you don't want to, but you can if you want to, because then I thought, hang about, the reason I've opened the door is so I can have a practice of them, how brilliant, what a brilliant apostate I am, and aren't I supposed to be turning them to my evil ways? That's the definition of apostate, isn't it? So the guy was really nice, and he sort of went, oh yes, that's very interesting. In the same way that if I'd met somebody in a pub and said, what do you do then? And they'd gone, oh, I'm a Satanist. I'd have gone, oh, okay, that's very interesting. So I was waiting for him to come at me with all his moves from the Ladybird book of how to deal with apostates. But he didn't really have any moves. He just kind of stood there. So I thought, oh crap, I'm going to have to say something. So I was rallying all my years of knowledge of all these millions and millions of you know, falsities and lies and dissonances and everything that I knew. And really, I was crap, properly shit. Nothing much came into my mind, except everything came together and nothing made sense. And so I kind of stumblingly started, and I said, well, actually, no, my opener was really good. I said, look, if you were born into Scientology, for instance, and you were not allowed to read anything else but Scientology books, how would you know you were in a cult? I thought, boom, I've got them there, that's bloody brilliant. And they just kind of stood there and went, So I went, how would you know you were in a cult? Fuck, I'm not saying anything. So, okay, moving swiftly on. I said, you know, the witnesses it's not the truth. That there's so many things wrong with it. And the big one that came to mind was Candace Conti. I kept saying, Candace Conti, have you looked up? It's a paedophile's paradise. And there's this little girl stood there, and I said, look, as witnesses, you don't even know this. I didn't know this until I left. But if your little girl had been abused and you went to the elders, because you would go to the elders, I said, wouldn't you? You wouldn't go to the police. You went to the elders and you said, you know, my little girl's been abused, and I said, and they'd say to you, was there 2 witnesses? And if there weren't, then that's as far as they'd take it. So he goes, the father of the little girl, he goes, well, if they had no evidence, then there's nothing more they can do, is there? And I went, your own little girl! which was utterly pointless, because in his mind, you know, if they have no evidence, that's perfectly reasonable. So I said, so okay, so then say you know that it's happened, and so you go to the police. I said, people have been disfellowshipped for going to the police. And he said, well, you're allowed to go to the police. And I'm saying, well, no, people have been disfellowshipped, at which point I thought, we just believe two totally different things, and there's no... What I say makes as much nonsense to him as what he says to me. It was like skating over him. So I moved on, and I said, well, you know, doesn't new light trouble you? At which point I kind of put my head round the corner of the door and realised there was like the witness number 2 stood round the corner, and she'd been listening to all this, and to my deep shock, I recognised this lady. She was the lady that was in when I was in for years. Can't remember her name at all. A really nice lady, a lady that I'd loved when I was a witness. Oh God, isn't it hard that these people aren't your enemies? They're your friends that just won't speak to you anymore. And so I saw the lady around the corner. I was like, oh, hello, lady whose name I've forgotten. I'm an apostate. So I said to her, aren't you troubled by new light? I said, for instance, you know, the generation that saw 1914 used to be a generation that was old enough to understand 1914, and then it became the generation that were born in 1914. I said, and now it's overlapping generations. And he goes to me, it's only one generation. And I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, I've just told you. I said, no, it's not. It's 2 generations. It's overlapping generations. It's only one generation. And he starts explaining to me what a generation is. A generation is a group of people. Oh, don't explain it to me. I've explained it to people 1,000,000 times, and I know what a bloody generation is. I thought in my head, because I was being really polite. So I moved on. Okay then, well, whoa, what about disfellowshipping? I said, it's so cruel. What if I just don't believe something that you believe, and I've got baptised, and therefore I've got to be disfellowshipped? He said, well, you can't have it both ways, can you? You can't not want paedophiles in the congregation, but not be able to disfellowship either. At which point my head kind of imploded in a little puff of, illogicalness and inability to put any coherent thoughts together. 3 days later, I thought of the answer to that question. No, you can't have it both ways. You can't keep paedophiles in and disfellowship people who say, I don't believe in 1914. It's the other way round. You keep the 1914 disbelievers in and you disfellowship the paedophiles. Oh, anyway, 3 days too late. So, well, you can't have it both ways, can you? Oh, no. So at this point, I was kind of getting a bit desperate. So I went, okay, just wait there. And I ran into the house and I ran back and I went, look at that, it's a black man's cock. Which is, I didn't actually say that. It's kind of what I was thinking. I was desperate. I'd been through every argument I could think of. And the last thing I could think of to show this poor, dear old sister that I had loved all through my, 20s and early 30s was, have a look at a black man's cock. So I goes, look at this. Look at this picture. What's that? And they both look and they're kind of going, And I go, who's he looking at? And the guy goes, well, they're all looking up to Jehovah to sing praises to him. And I went, well, where is it? I goes, well, he's not, is he? He's not looking up to Jehovah. He's looking at her. I goes, and what's that? What's that? That's not his hand. Couldn't say it. I was trying to be polite. That's not his hand. What's that? I goes, everybody else I've shown this picture to, they know what that is. It's disgusting. I goes, and that's why I can't take my daughter to the meetings anymore. It's disgusting. I goes, and do you know, I said, since people have made a fuss about this picture, they've changed it. And the old lady goes, well, they would, wouldn't they, if people were reading something into it that wasn't there. And I felt like going, okay, you've won. I surrender. So, given that nothing I said went in, on review, that I had kept him there about 20-25 minutes. And the weird thing was, given that, you know, it's all about time, isn't it? Which I didn't think about till afterwards. The guy was like picking up his little girl, and she wasn't getting restless, but he picked her up, and then he kept moaning to me that she was getting tired. And I thought, hang about, you've come to my door, don't be bloody moaning to me that she's tired. And then I thought, suck it up, little girl. I've done 15 years of being a little girl on the doors. If you can damn well stand for 10 minutes on my door, because I've done it for years. So out when the charitable smarties thought, and I thought, you can damn well stand there and listen to all this. Anyway, she was okay. She wasn't getting restless or crying. It was just that the guy was getting tired of holding her, which I thought was kind of weird, given that they'd come to me. Anyway, at the end, he kind of said, you know, after the black man's conversation, he kind of said, well, it's been really lovely talking to you. It's been really lovely talking to you, and I'm so glad that we had this conversation. Goodbye. And off he went. And I went inside like a nervous wreck and thought, God, what a shit anti-witnesser I am. I had nothing of use to say. I had no concrete examples. I had no decent questions apart from my opener about Scientology. And he kept saying to me, I've done all my research. I've done all my research. And I thought, I said that 30 years ago when people were saying to me, you're brainwashed. Oh no, I've done all my research. Some people need the brains washing, don't they? And when I said about Candace Conte, I kept saying, look up Candace Conte. He goes, oh, well, you can't believe everything you read in the papers, can you? Because it's a court case. It's happened. It's not what you genuinely think. Everything in the newspaper is a lie. Oh, dear. So anyway, the upshot of it was, I've got a long list of things that I know how not to say and not to do. And I think I really need to think hard about my anti-witnessing strategy in the future. So take it from me, it's harder than you think. Thank you for listening to another rambling edition of Stand Up for Jehovah.